Hey everybody, welcome back. This is InfoSecLuke, trying out a new segment today where we're going to be discussing the top cybersecurity news of the week. So stay tuned. Alright, so diving right in, we've got a couple stories to pull up. The first one comes from Time, and it's actually dated July 9th, so about a week ago. But the title, as you can see, is Trump officials keep getting impersonated by AI vishing scammers. What to know and how to protect yourself. So the FBI issued a warning in May that says if you receive a message claiming to be a senior U.S. official, claiming to be from a senior U.S. official, do not assume it is authentic. And if you scroll down further in the article, I think it talks about how on Tuesday, the Washington Post reported that Marco Rubio, President Donald Trump's Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor, was the latest to be impersonated by an unknown individual who used AI to mimic his voice and writing style and voice and text messages on the non-government encrypted communications app Signal to 3 foreign ministers, a U.S. governor, and a U.S. member of Congress, according to a State Department cable sent July 3rd. And of course, it goes on to say that Rubio is not the first in the Trump administration to be impersonated. And I guess taking a step back real quick, this is something we can expect to see more and more of, AI type vishing or phishing or smishing or any of the attacks that people use to try to impersonate somebody and get you to do something either financially motivated, like you think of the rings that run out of India, where they're impersonating maybe a PayPal person, or they're impersonating a Microsoft support tech, and with the tools available with AI, they can obviously impersonate someone. You could think of maybe receiving a call from your mother. And it sounds exactly like her, and she's asking you to wire her some money or something like that. You could even think of it at work, like if someone impersonates your boss and leaves you a voicemail asking you to do something urgent or give up some credential or something like that. AI is just going to make it a lot easier for scammers and malicious actors of all types. When in the old days, you could kind of tell a phishing attack maybe by misspelled words or just the look and feel of the email, just something stood out to you that just didn't look right. But AI with the image generation capabilities and the audio capabilities is going to make this a whole new ball game. So it's important to be on the lookout for this stuff. If it's affecting senior folks at the White House, it can definitely impact corporations and just the average American citizen too. So something to keep a lookout for. Okay, the next story comes from the Federal News Network, and keeping with the theme of AI, this is an article written by Terry Gerton yesterday. Things to think about when deploying AI tools in the cybersecurity space. There's actually a video. I don't know if we would get copyright strike by playing that, so I'm going to avoid that for now. Let's just actually see what it says. Okay, so it's talking about CISA. The Trump 2026 budget that's come out just recently proposed a reduction of almost 30% of CISA's workforce. And CISA being, of course, the nation's premier cybersecurity defense agency. So this is kind of an interview format. Let's see what we can glean here. It's inevitable, the integration of AI into cyber, but I would also claim that it's essential. We have all heard that cybersecurity threats are just increasing, evolving constantly, and there's a severe shortage of trained and qualified cyber workforce professionals. And so how do you solve this problem? The work is vast, not enough knowledgeable people to do the work. So the integration of AI can be a wonderful helping hand to address this change. However, we do need to deploy AI very thoughtfully, deliberately, and with the cautions we are talking about. I can definitely attest to this, like even in my personal experience at work. We recently did a demo for Microsoft's Copilot for security, and while the tool probably isn't quite up to speed yet, it still has a lot of kinks and bugs to work out. The idea is that it would integrate into either your Microsoft Defender or your Microsoft Sentinel SIEM and give you the ability to kind of ask questions about specific alerts or incidents, and it might give you next steps as far as like what you should do to mitigate a certain threat. So yeah, it could definitely help with that type of thing on like the SOC side. The SOC analyst role could be augmented using artificial intelligence. I've even experienced where you can, if you're unsure of like a email domain, whether or not it's being spoofed, you can kind of pipe in the email headers into an AI tool, and it'll give you a diagnosis of what that email risk score is, whether it's likely to be malicious or not. So AI is definitely a powerful tool when it comes to that sort of thing, or just doing research on, CVEs that come out, the vulnerabilities that are emerging. You can definitely use it to augment your work. And one day maybe it'll be more automated than it is now, or will be in the near future. But it's definitely an interesting take as far as how information security is going to be impacted by deploying AI tools. And the tagline here is cybersecurity threats aren't going away, and with AI, they're even more and more insidious. So going back to that last story, it's like as the attackers are leveraging AI to up their game, it only makes sense that the defenders should be doing the same. So keeping right along with the theme of AI and cybersecurity, here's one from Forbes, written by Rohan Sharma, Forbes council member. This was from 2 days ago. And basically, perusing the article, it's talking about how nearly half of large enterprises plan to use AI to detect and prevent attacks by 2025, and budgets reflect this urgency. AI-driven tools are credited with cutting breach costs by up to 31% on average. And then, of course, it gives a caveat: AI is no silver bullet. A lot of the current tools seem to be underperforming. But yeah, here it is a mention of the 1,200% spike in phishing since 2022 as AI-generated emails and content turbocharge scams and disinformation. So AI won't erase the risk, but when precisely applied, it can tilt the odds towards the defenders. Executives need to be prepared for both AI-powered defenses and AI-driven threats. It gives you some strategic pillars of a value-driven cyber defense: strategic alignment, governance and oversight, process and integration, data, talent, and ecosystem, trust and compliance. You can see mention of regulations such as GDPR, NIST. Oh, I didn't know NIST had an AI risk management framework. That would be worth reading, or maybe doing a video on at some point. It was released January 26th of 2023, so it's not brand new, but definitely probably worthwhile reading for anybody in cyber who's trying to get a handle on managing AI risks and using AI to advance cybersecurity. So then, of course, educate and align stakeholders, focus on value and outcomes, anchor every AI initiative in measurable business value such as reduced breach impact, improved response speed, regulatory compliance, and enhanced trust. Periodically ask, what value is this bringing to our security posture? And yeah, there's definitely the need for KPIs, or key performance indicators, when you're doing that. If you're not measuring the value of the tool, then it's really hard to justify the expense. AI is all the buzz, definitely in society, but in cybersecurity especially, just because the nature of the work and the potential for either it to be leveraged for good or for evil. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game that's occurring in real time. So very cool article from Forbes there. Next up on the list, we have an article from MSN by Steve Povolny. Cybersecurity executives love AI. Cybersecurity analysts distrust it. And that's probably a pretty broad blanket statement. Definitely kind of clickbaity, but Let's see why they say executives love AI. According to Deloitte, 25% of companies are expected to have launched AI agents by the end of 2025, with that number projected to rise to 50% shortly thereafter. The growing interest in AI tools is driven not only by their potential, but also by the tangible results they are already beginning to deliver. For executives, the stakes are rising. As more companies begin releasing AI-enabled products and services, the pressure to keep pace is intensifying. Organizations that can't demonstrate AI capabilities, whether in their customer experience, cybersecurity response, or product features, risk being perceived as laggards, out-innovated by faster, more adaptive competitors. So there's definitely a lot of buzz in the boardrooms and at the C-suite level about AI, but it's saying that analysts distrust AI, and I'm curious to see what their reasoning for that is. If anyone wants to make their job easier, it's a SOC analyst, so their skepticism of AI comes from experience, not cynicism. The stakes in cybersecurity are high and trust is earned, especially when systems that are designed to protect critical assets are involved. Research shows that only 10% of analysts currently trust AI to operate fully autonomously. Okay, so there's the caveat. Fully autonomously, like, that's a stretch. I think even for executives, they know that there's still some level of collaboration between the humans and the tools. To just totally think you can run it in the background and not have to do any interaction is a bit naive. I'm surprised that even 10% of analysts honestly think that's possible, at least at the current state of things. Maybe one day there'll be more autonomy for the AIs, but right now I think it's more, you can think of it as a better tool, a better hammer in your tool belt, wherein you can do things more quickly and get more intelligent recommendations on remediation. So again, that article is a bit misleading. I think that a lot of people, including cybersecurity analysts, see the value in AI. Now, whether or not it's fully autonomous, that's a whole nother question, and I think right now the answer is no. So pivoting a little bit away from the AI topic as far as how that can be used in cybersecurity, this one also comes from Federal News Network. Jason Doubleday, July 16th, Trump administration focuses on Zero Trust 2.0 cybersecurity efficiencies. And if you're not familiar with what the concept of zero trust is, essentially you can think of it as like a shift away from the idea that there's a perimeter to our network where we just have a hard line of demarcation between the external and the internal resources, where we protect things with like firewalls and perimeter-based security tools. Zero trust is more the idea, especially kind of brought on by the era of the BYOD, or bring your own device, where you just have a zero trust for anybody, whether that's an internal employee or an external actor, and you kind of build your security around that, involving multi-factor authentication, data access controls, and you just kind of, instead of trust but verify, you just trust no one and you verify everyone, if that makes any sense. And we can go into a deeper dive on zero trust. Honestly, it would probably be good for me to brush up on that so I can explain it more clearly, but this article looks like they're talking about a Zero Trust 2.0, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but here's a representative named Polk, government official, I'm sure, in the Trump administration, saying that as opposed to trying to essentially raise all ships, we want to raise a couple very important ones. So there's a focus on efficiency and rationalization. So he said a key effort is examining cybersecurity compliance regimes. So there's talk of FedRAMP 20X, which I think is maybe a newer version of the FedRAMP, and it's trying to simplify and automate the application and validation of FedRAMP security requirements. Leverage existing industry investments in security by inheriting best-in-class commercial security frameworks. continuously monitor security decisions using a simple hands-off approach, and build trust between industry and federal agencies by leaning into direct business relationships between providers and customers, enable rapid continuous innovation without artificial checkpoints that halt progress. So it sounds like they're trying to lean it out, maybe the whole FedRAMP process, and maybe eliminate some of the, what do they call it over here, the compliance regimes. So just kind of red tape for the sake of red tape, I'm guessing, but still keeping that zero trust architecture in mind. Again, I don't work for the federal government any longer. I'm not in that world, so I'm not super read into FedRAMP and all the changes taking place over there. But if you're in the DoD, maybe you know more about it, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are well read into this. So interesting article there. And then to close this video out, I just have a couple more stories, AI related, but not particularly AI cybersecurity necessarily. Just found this one interesting, that Mark Zuckerberg has an AI moonshot project where Meta is going to build a data fortress to win the race for super intelligence. So he's definitely trying to throw his hat in the ring a little bit more. They're planning to build data centers that cover significant portions of Manhattan's footprint, with Hyperion cluster scaling to 5 gigawatts by 2030. That is a lot of power. It's a $14.3 billion investment in Scale AI, plans hundreds of billions more, funded entirely by existing cash flow. So the race is on. You know, you've got AI from all the big tech companies. You've got OpenAI, of course. You've got Microsoft with their Copilot. You've got Grok AI, which we're actually going to talk about next with Elon Musk and X. You've got Google Gemini. So everybody's racing towards this. And then, of course, that's all within the U.S., but you've got other nations such as China with, I think they call it DeepSeek, is their big project right now. All these are massively expensive and power-hungry implementations of big data centers that can do the massive compute to run these bigger and more powerful models. So it's kind of interesting to see all the momentum that's building towards what they're hoping to be is AGI, Advanced General Intelligence, by, some speculate by 2030. But that's a whole nother topic. AI, we could get into that later. So let's pivot over to Grok. So again, this one comes from MSN, and it talks about the Grok 4 release, which I believe happened July 9th. And it's saying Grok 4 leapfrogs Cloud and DeepSeek in LLM rankings despite safety concerns. So Grok 4 is all the rage. I've seen some videos saying that it is far more capable at some of the more engineering and math related questions. It excels at things like writing code. It's even able to answer, I think, all the questions on the GRE, or the graduate level version of the SAT, with almost perfect accuracy, and it's outperforming a lot of like PhD level folks at almost any area of study. So pretty cool. But yeah, it's tied for first at math, tied for second at coding, creative writing tied for second. Some of these I don't understand what they are, but longer query, multi-turn, things like that. So the race is on, and Grok 4 was, as far as I understand it, a pretty big leap forward. But you can see already there's no meaningful safety guardrails. And the next story I found is that Grok 4 was actually jailbroken 2 days after release with a combined attack. And there's researchers from an organization called NeuroTrust combined two known strategies, echo chamber and crescendo, to bypass the AI model safety systems and elicit harmful responses without issuing any explicitly malicious prompts. And I think what they did is they tried to get it to give information on how to make Molotov cocktails, for example, how to make methamphetamines, and then toxin-related responses. And these are pretty high success rates that they were able to elicit, which is, of course, concerning. And it brings up the question of, how safe are these LLMs, and how easily can you kind of engineer prompts that will get them to bypass or go against their guardrails. So definitely something to watch out for. Another article just kind of going over the same story. Again, they're using something called echo chamber and crescendo techniques, exposing deep flaws in AI safety systems. And that's not to say Grok is the only one vulnerable to these. I'm pretty sure that's a concern for all these major companies. Just how secure can you make the guardrails, and how can you avoid this kind of prompt circumventing of those controls. So that'll pretty much round up the video for this evening. Just wanted to kind of hop on here and try out a new format where we go over some top stories in cybersecurity. Hope the ones I selected were somewhat interesting to you. Again, it was pretty AI heavy, but that's what the buzz is all about these days. So maybe we can find some other stuff about more upcoming zero-day attacks or CVEs, or other cybersecurity stories as they pop up. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This is InfoSecLuke signing out.